What happens when you take two serious anglers, drop them on an unknown body of water, and give them a mission to conquer the lake and each other?
Oh, Corky, what a giant!
Two different patterns, one unknown lake, with no practice and no preparation. Who will catch the most fish and how? The only way to find out is to go commando. The mission is simple. Two experienced anglers. Two different battle plans. Going head to head on one unfamiliar body of water. Steve Pennaz takes us to the front line of fishing to learn the lessons of the Lake Commandos.
You know, one of the things I look for right away is water clarity. And with 7-foot water clarity, that's pretty good for this area. And going deep, maybe finesse might be the ticket here.
Being a lake commando doesn't always mean bringing out the heavy artillery. In fact, more often than not, stealth and finesse win the biggest battles. That's exactly the approach Steve Pennaz and veteran professional angler Mark Kortz are going to have to take today.
Mark is a good stick. He's a tournament angler who's traveled the country. His full-time job is to catch fish.
Today's commando mission is a surgical strike on a small natural lake with heavy, deep weed growth as the commandos go finesse to lure big bass out of heavy cover. You've heard the old saying, big things come in small packages. Well, that's certainly the case with today's commando battleground. Here are the details. At just 318 acres, this lake is small by anyone's standards, but it's also quite deep for its size, with a max depth of 57 feet. It's classified eutrophic, but water clarity is slightly better than other lakes in the area, with average clarity over 8 feet and weed growth out to more than 11 feet. The lake is essentially a featureless bowl, so available habitat is extremely one-dimensional, limited to a well-defined weed line that rings the entire lake. Cover is also one-dimensional in the form of heavy aquatic vegetation, both emergent in the form of bulrushes and cattails along the shore, and submergent in the form of milfoil, coontail, and cabbage weed out to a depth of nearly 12 feet. The forage base is typical of a small freshwater lake, with the main forage species being juvenile panfish, white suckers, and a variety of minnow species. The weather today is a bit unstable, with air temps in the 80s, water temps in the upper 70s, light winds, and a very good chance of an isolated thunder shower at some point during the day. That's the battleground the Lake Commandos are facing, and we're about to find out their plan of attack. But we also want to know how you would fish it, so let us know online.
What I'm going to choose today is a drop shot rig. But one of the things I'm going to do a little bit different today with my drop shot rig is I'm actually going to rig it weedless, because it looks like we've got a real sweet, sharp wall of weeds. You know, the bait I've chosen today is the Havoc bottom hopper. Because of the clear water situation, I've chosen a green pumpkin with a red fleck. And I like that red fleck. It just puts a little bit of spark to it. Today, the rod and reel I'm going to use to beat Steve is the Pflueger Patriarch. It's the lightest spinning reel in the industry. We've got it paired up with an Elite Tech 6'9" medium light smallmouth series rod from Fenwick. And one of the neat things about the rig that I'm using and the way I've got it set up is you'll notice I'm using a 1/0 wide gap hook, and I'm going to rig it weedless, and I'm down to a 3/16 ounce weight. And the neat thing about this is I can adjust this weight to the depth I want it off the bottom. I've got it spooled up with 100% spider wire ultracast fluorocarbon, and the 6'9" combination I think is going to be ideal for putting a whooping on Steve today.
You know, the rig I'm going to use it is very similar to Mark's. I've got a 6'9" Elite Tech rod from Fenwick. It's a medium, not a medium light, a little bit stiffer rod. I've got the Pflueger Patriarch on here. I've got it loaded with 10-pound nanofill in the new green color, which is a little lower vis. But I've attached a liter of 10-pound 100% fluorocarbon for invisibility, a little bit of stretch, and on the business end, I've got a little shaky head here. I've got a power shaky worm in green pumpkin red fleck, which is the same color that Mark's going to use. It's really good in this clear water. I like the visibility, and that little red fleck does seem to add to it.
It's a battle between two finesse delivery systems, the drop shot and the jig worm. The Mark Courts drop shot plan gets the first test.
Boy, look at the weed down here. I like it.
I like it.
And I like the fact it's cabbage. I haven't been on a lake with cabbage in years.
Cabbage and coontail.
Is that right? Look at
That's
this.
coontail right there.
You know, when we launched today, I was really excited to see this lake had cabbage. Cabbage is becoming not a rare weed, but is becoming uncommon, especially when a lake has milfoil and some of these other invasives that are out competing it. So we had to move from the edge of the weeds and fishing toward the inside of it to the outer edge of the weeds to stay out of the milfoil because it would clog our hooks.
Fish.
I got a fish. I don't know when I hooked him. It's a good fish, but that's a nice one.
Absolutely. There.
All right, there we
That's
go.
what we're looking for.
On that power shaky worm.
So Pennaz draws first blood on the battlefield today, but with the possibility of some major weather moving in, anything could happen before this day is done. Lake Commandos is brought to you by Abu Garcia for Life, Trilene, Anglers Trust Berkeley Trilene, Ranger Boats, still building legends one at a time, Spider Wire, nothing gets away, and by Fish Hound, when to go, where to go, what to throw. The Lake Commandos are on a mission to find and catch big largemouth bass in heavy cover on finesse rigs. Finding fish on an unfamiliar body of water is nothing new for Commando Mark Courts. A veteran professional angler, Mark has competed in over 60 national FLW bass and walleye tournaments over the past 10 years, with career earnings close to $250,000. And in his spare time, if he has any, Mark is an accomplished volleyball coach.
Whether it be spring, fall, midsummer, you really have to look at how the lake sets up for that time of year.
And the thing I like about what's happening right now, other than I'm beating you, is that these fish are really inhaling that worm.
And that's telling me that maybe you've got the right color already. You know, you might have gotten lucky. I'll give you that. You might have gotten lucky.
Look at the fish
and
on the
chose
screen
the
here.
right color.
Fish.
Here we go.
This feels like a decent bass.
You know, this is getting pretty old, Steve.
Landed fish?
Get your fish today.
Yeah, baby.
Nice.
Hooked right in the corner of the mouth.
Right where they're supposed to be.
He's been caught before, look.
Yeah, he has actually, right there.
Yeah. Catch and release works, baby, right there. Well, we got a storm brewing right next to us here. We'll keep an eye on that.
Tell you what, you know, when that storm rolled in this morning, we could see it coming from a long ways away. Now, if this storm is moving northeast, we might be all right, but we've still got this bottom section here that could be. And you know, for you folks watching at home, you definitely want to pay attention. You have a lot of tools at hand now. You don't want to get caught out on the water.
It was a storm that had lightning, it had thunder, and it had heavy rain, so we got off the lake.
I think the best thing for us right now, Steve, would
Go.
run in.
Go. Let's go in. What Mark did when we got back on the lake is really what made the difference. He made a color switch that went darker from lighter because the light levels had gone darker.
Fish.
You found a school here, dude. Good fish, you need a net?
Yeah, this one we're gonna need a net for, Steve.
Alrighty. Be happy to get it. You want me to take the, you got the motor?
Yep, we're good.
Go. Hey, beauty. Nice, way to go, man.
That's what I'm talking about, you know. It was just a matter of time, Steve, before we kind of figured these out. Now, my time's almost up and we're gonna go to your technique, but I'll tell you what, this just proves that drop shotting does work.
Oh, that's a beauty too. That's a nice fish.
What a true pattern is really putting small details together to get the final product. Whatever it may be, that triggers the most bites throughout the day is what I truly believe is putting together a pattern.
That's a giant. Look at that. Oh, man. I want to take him out of there. Oh, Corky, what a giant.
That's what we're talking about.
Oh, look at that one. Wow.
And you know the best part about this fish, Steve?
Yeah, you caught it.
I caught it, and now I'm only down by one.
Oh, that is a tank. All in the drop shot.
You know, finesse fishing just proves, look how healthy this fish is. Finesse fishing, you can still catch giant bass.
Mark Kortz is making a commando comeback. Can Pennaz hold him off? We'll find out. This segment of Lake Commandos is brought to you by Yeti Coolers. Yeti, wildly stronger, keep ice longer.
Oh, hey, beauty. Wow.
You know, one of the keys to what me and Steve were really trying to get across today is trying to find that good school of big fish. Thinking that we're finding out, you know, with that last big fish, Steve, that this lake has a lot of potential, and I'm really curious to see in your 2-hour period what you can come up with.
Well, the pressure's on now there. We call you 10-minute Mark. Fish. Holy cow, he's on fire.
Big fish, Steve.
Big fish. Another net?
Yep. Just another nice, really nice fish.
Oh, yeah. There you go. Nice job, man. Uh-oh. That's the one that's in front of me now.
Steve. Look at there.
He's in front of me now. When we got back on the water this afternoon, we had some wind, and it was a crosswind that we were casting into. I was struggling to get my bait down to the bottom, where he was having no trouble throwing on 6 and 8 pound fluorocarbon with these light jigs. He was getting down to the bottom, he was getting bit, he was catching fish.
There's what we're looking for.
Jiggy.
Tell you what, Steve, you know, we just started on the shaky head program, and that's 2 pretty quick fish on your shaky head program. So I don't know, it might be my color, your program, but I'll tell you what, we're kind of getting it put together.
When you look at a worm that's used as a shaky head, it's just a straight piece of plastic that has nothing on the end, and you look at it, you go, how's this thing going to catch fish? But if you look closely at a shaky worm, you'll notice that there's little variations in how the worm is built, and near the tail it's typically a little bit thicker, and about 3/4 of the way down it's a little bit thinner. That little thin edge allows that when you shake that rod tip, that tail's down there wiggling, almost like a fish or an insect or something that's alive.
Look at this bait. I mean, that bait is absolutely gone.
Yep.
In that fish's mouth.
It's really one of those things that once you get your mind around it, these shaky heads can be a deadly, deadly bait. Fish.
Ooh, that looks like a good one, Steve.
It's a bass, that's all I can say. No, it's a pike. He's flipping like a bass. Oh, man.
It's all right. You just keep catching those.
Here.
This format, you know, the neat thing about it is me and Steve giving each other a bad time all day long. And you know what it does is it forces you to fish a little bit harder, pay attention to small details, and make those changes to try to beat the guy in the boat.
Now I'm down by 4.
You know, Steve, this is a largemouth competition.
There's a fish. There's a school right there. Down. That's a pike. Jeez.
That's awesome, folks. I catch the bass, he catches the pike.
Woo! There he brushed me off. I'll just grab this rod. He picked a color pattern that adjusted for the light that changed after the storm. I didn't. It was a difference between winning and losing. Color can make that big of a difference.
Ooh, oh, good one, Steve. I'll get the net. Nice.
There we go.
There you go.
Yeah. I'm back in the game. You know what, Mark? I'm paying more attention to the little things, and I think what I was fishing was too fast.
Just when we thought this day was in the bag, here comes Steve Pennaz. We're going down to the wire when we come back. Lake Commandos is brought to you by Yamaha Marine. Reliability starts here. Johnson Fishing. Yeti Coolers. Wildly stronger. Keep ice longer. Not too kinky. No kinks ever. And by Humminbird. Simply, clearly better. It's been a roller coaster day for the Commandos. Steve Pennaz jumped out to an early lead, but a midday late summer squall cooled off his hot bite.
Fish.
Since then, it's been all Mark Courts.
Wow!
I put this challenge out there to everybody watching that, you know, when you're out with your buddies, number one, make sure you guys are fishing, you know, whether it's the same technique, but change colors. You know, make sure that when you start out the day, he has one color on and you have a different color on. Because in the long run, by the end of the day, what's gonna end up happening is you guys are gonna put together a pattern and do just like me and Steve did today. We put together a pattern, we refined it, and we became Lake Commandos. Oh, good fish, Steve.
He broke out coming out of that milfoil.
Yeah,
Down by two. Catching up.
And I think you got about 30 minutes left.
Good one again. Woo! There he is. Yeah!
Nice one.
Down by one, baby. Picking it up. Picking it up. You feel that? Train a coming? Fish. Fish. There you go. There's a good one. Oh no! Oh, I'm sorry you lost that. I'm sorry.
Wow, that was a good one, Steve.
Was it?
We went back to an area where we had caught some fish earlier in the day. We went back to that area, and what ended up happening is Steve hooked up with this big fish, and I don't know what he was doing up there, but he was taking his time, lollygagging around, and the fish got down into the weeds. And I'll tell you what, at that moment, I knew it was game over.
Ah! Oh, that could have been the one to tie it.
No, you aren't gonna let a fish that gets off bother you, are you? It was neat in the fact that we both caught probably about the same amount of fish in each technique, but what it really came down to is that color change that I made in the midday, and it was small attention to detail.
All right, get it up here. Hope you don't lose it. Oh man, there you go, nice fish. Mark, that's a gorgeous fish.
Beauty.
There you go,
Steve.
That's not fish, that's icing. I think that's icing.
Is it your birthday?
No, but that's icing.
That's icing
Wow.
on the cake, baby.
Nice fish. I thought there's a little bit better opportunity to cover water with the shaky head, but the drop shot can be fished quickly as well. And in the end, I think it was almost fish for fish between the two patterns. There he goes. Hey, nice fish.
Absolutely, Steve. That was a lot of fun today.
What an interesting day on a great lake. We had the highs and we had the lows. We had great fishing, small fish, big fish. We had massive weather changes with storms rolling through, and now we've got high sun, no clouds. Interesting day. But what really made this day stand out is the fact that it was small tweaks to the presentation that made a big difference. You know, there's not a lot of difference in color between these two baits, but this one worked when it was sunnier out, and this is the one that worked when it was cloudy out, and it really made a difference. You know, Mark Courts is a great angler. He makes his living fishing, and he recognized that there was a big color change in light, actually a light level change after the storm. He immediately went to a darker bait, banged 4 fish, and that was the difference in the competition today. But when you're fishing finesse, little things can make a difference. Fluorocarbon line was better than anything else today because it helped keep that bait down deep, and that's where the fish were. You know, Mark, you'll probably see the cobwebs and because this is the first time in several shows I've had to break out a $2 bill and pay off. Great job today. Actually, absolutely great job. You outfished me today.
I'll tell you what, Steve, it was my pleasure, and I had a lot of fun. And I'll tell you what, you know, the neat part about it is when it really came down to it, both patterns worked, both patterns were successful, and we caught a lot of fish. And that's truly what a day on the water is about, is catching a lot of fish.
I'm Captain George Mitchell. This is Coastal Chaos. Hey, I'm a die-hard live bait fisherman. I'm happiest when the bait wells are full, but sometimes the liveys just won't get the job done. That's when I'll go to trolling, jigging, and sometimes casting. Let's talk trolling. I've got this ballyhoo rigged what I call naked, but I can add a skirt and give the fish an option. I can troll these guys for hours at 5 to 8 knots and cover a pile of ocean in search of fish. And when I do locate them, I can slow down and switch to the liveys. Casting to feeding fish is another instance where artificials work best. I really love poppers, especially if the fish are lit up. Lots of times the fish are keyed in on a certain bait. Oftentimes it's the one you don't have. Your best bet is to match the hatch as closely as possible with the same size artificial. The popularity of jigging has just exploded in the last few years. There's a lot of options out there nowadays, like the old standard lead head jigs, but now they've got neat new stuff like the Sebile Fast Cast. I like to use as light a jig as possible unless I need to get below a school of non-target fish to reach the ones I really want to catch. I fish jigs on spinning gear with braid. I fish them aggressively. I want to trigger that strike. Sometimes I'll cast it into the structure, but the majority of the time I'm fishing it straight up and down right under the boat. Artificial baits are deadly. I use them often, even when good live bait's available.